What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be recapping the games from the following week in the NFL, Week 9. First time ever doing this. I mean, the last time I did this was like in podcasts and stuff like that, but have been shifting away from podcasts, focusing more on YouTube and doing videos. Either way, we're doing some recaps. We're going to start with, of course, the Thursday game. Basically like how I do with predictions. Break down each game, what we saw, the results, stats, what their future holds. Let's get into it. Starting with the first game, Thursday Night Football. Philadelphia Eagles facing the Houston Texans in Houston. This was a funny game because, well, we saw the Astros and the Phillies. My poor Phillies losing in the World Series, but we saw them too. So it was a pretty cool matchup. And actually, this was a close game at first. It was 14-14. I'm sorry, at halftime. 14-14. Eagles supposed to be the best team in the league, undefeated. Texans, the worst team in the league. It was tied up at halftime, being 14-14. Philadelphia Eagles did pull away with the win, beating the Texans 29-17. Looking at the stat leaders, Jalen Hurts having a solid season this year. 243 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Davis Mills, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Davis Mills, he's hard to figure out. What do you really know from Davis Mills? Like, he's just inconsistent. It's hard to tell. He showed some, he showed a lot of hope last year, I guess you could say. Going into the season, a lot of people were sticking with Davis Mills. A lot of people were happy with Davis Mills. I didn't really see much from him, but a lot of people were happy. A lot of people saw a lot of stuff, a lot of hope in him. I didn't really see much into him. A lot of Texans fans now, they want to, of course, tank for quarterbacks. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. I think that's a better option. Davis Mills just can't get it done. He can be a solid backup, solid bridge quarterback, fill in for, when your starting quarterback's down. But I just don't think Davis Mills is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Who knows? I mean, he didn't took the Texans to a bad team last year, especially this year too. Now, I know it's just not Davis Mills, but he's not getting it done. He throws a lot of interceptions. On the ground, Miles Sanders, 17 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Pierce, 27 carries, 139 yards. The rookie running back class this year, very solid. Breece Hall, of course, we saw went down, but he was playing solid. Kenneth Walker playing very good. Pierce playing very good. I'm sure there's other rookies I'm missing right now off the top of my head. Probably talking to them, mention them, later on in the video. Receiving, tight end, Goddard, 8 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown. He had himself a day. And then Dorsett, 3 receptions, 69 yards for the Texans. So Texans are just lacking weapons. But hey, Pierce is going to be a problem. He's already a problem now. He's going to be a problem for years. But yeah, they won 29-17. The Los Angeles Chargers defeated the Atlanta Falcons on the road 20-17. This was another close game. Atlanta blowing another lead. They were up 10-0 going into the second quarter. Chargers score 14 in the second quarter. And they had to win in the game 20-17. Falcons, they just can't escape it. Blowing leads, it's insane. Looking at stat leaders, Justin Herbert, 245 yards, a touchdown, and interception. Herbert, I know he's a bit banged up. He's not playing. He's injured. He's not healthy. He's not playing good football this year. I thought he'd be an MVP type candidate. He's not playing the best football right now. Marcus Mariota, he's playing some pretty solid football right now. I thought he'd be replaced by now. He threw for only 129 yards, but he's doing very good on the ground as well. Rushing, Austin Eckler had himself a slow start. Barely had anything going in the first half, but ended the game with 47 rushing yards and a touchdown. I'm pretty sure he had a receiving touchdown as well. LiQWYD, sorry if I mispronounced that. He had 99 yards on the ground, but we saw also Cordell Patterson. He came back. He scored 2 touchdowns for the Atlanta Falcons. Chargers are dealing with wide receiver problems. Keenan Allen, out. Mike Williams, out. So we saw Palmer for the Chargers. 8 receptions, 106 yards. Then Kyle Pitts, 2 receptions and 27 yards. He was the receiving leader for the Falcons. So that's not good either, especially with the rookies that they have. Of course, we saw Drake London, a good wide receiver. He was pretty quiet, though, in that game. Chargers ended up winning, though, 20-17. One of the better games of the week, Miami Dolphins defeating the Chicago Bears 35-32. We're seeing Justin Fields get better every single day. He had 123 passing yards with 3 touchdowns, but on the ground, breaking records, 178 rushing yards and a touchdown as well, so 4 total touchdowns. Insane day by Justin Fields. Just getting better every week. I know the Bears, they found their guy. As of now, definitely going to be a problem in Chicago. Not for the Bears, but for other teams. Looking at the Dolphins, Tua having himself a day, 302 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the ground, Jeff Wilson's first game, 51 yards. We saw Raheem Mostert get in the end zone with a rushing touchdown. On the receiving, Tyreek Hill having an amazing receiving season this year. 143 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Waddle with a touchdown. And Jeff Wilson with the receiving touchdown. On the Bears, Darnell Mooney, 43 yards and a touchdown. Chase Claypool, first game in Chicago, only 2 receptions and 13 yards. Cole Kmet, tight end, Notre Dame grad, 5 receptions, 41 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, Bears, I think they have a bright future. Just depends on the leadership they have, management that they have, and Dolphins playing like a solid team. Tua, I said it earlier in the year, this is his last year to prove something. He's definitely proven it. So good to see Tua, playing solid football. I'm rooting for him. The Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Carolina Panthers at home, 42-21. Slow start for the Panthers. PJ Walker not getting it done. Only had 9 passing yards, but 2 interceptions. Baker Mayfield came in, threw 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. Weird quarterback controversy in Carolina. They're not good. None of those guys are good. I know PJ Walker. Here's the problem with social media and all. A guy will have really good one game, and then he's the future. He's the QB1. We saw last year with LiQWYD, the Jets had a really good game. They wanted him QB1. Played the next game, played terrible. PJ Walker played very good last week. This week, played terrible. You got to give it some time. It's hard to judge based off of a week. Same thing goes if you're bad. If you suck 1 week, doesn't mean you should be on the bench. Relax. Baker Mayfield's not the best quarterback, of course, but I think he's the best quarterback in Carolina. They have to start him. They want to deal with another quarterback, new quarterback, get in the draft. But Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback in Carolina. It just is. Anybody else, it's just not going to work out. On the ground, Dante Foreman had an amazing week last week. Only 23 yards this week. Receiving, Terrace Marshall Jr., 53 yards and a touchdown. And we saw Tommy Tremble, I think another Notre Dame grad, 11 yards and a touchdown. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow, 206 yards and a touchdown. Also had a rushing touchdown. Of course, player of the week, player of the month, game of the month, game of the week, game of the year. 153 rushing yards by Joe Mixon and 4 touchdowns. That's not all. He also had a 58 receiving yards and a touchdown as well. So 5 total touchdowns. Unbelievable. 55 fantasy points in my league from Joe Mixon. Unbelievable. T. Higgins, 60 yards. Tyler Boyd, 44 yards. They're missing, of course, Jamar Chase. I need him to come back for my fantasy, but as a Steeler fan, I don't know. But Bengals, they're starting to pick it up, especially after a slow start to the season. What is going on with the Packers? What is going on with Aaron Rodgers? They lost to the Lions, 15-9. I'm always going to root for the Lions, but the Lions are the Lions. They had 1 win going into this. Packers, I just thought they were a better overall team. They were playing like trash this year, but I still think the Packers are going to beat them. Usually the Packers own the Lions, but not this case. Defeat them 15-9. Aaron Rodgers, 3 interceptions. Don't know what's up with him lately. Just not playing that good. He's not washed because he just won 2 back-to-back MVPs. It's hard to say you're washed in 1 season. Just not playing very good right now. Also did throw for 291 yards and a touchdown, but still did not play that good. Running game did not help either. He led the team in rushing yards. Almost a 40-year-old quarterback should not be leading their team in rushing yards. Had 4 carries for 40 yards, Aaron Rodgers did. A.J. Dillon with 34 yards. Aaron Jones only 25. Can't be happening. The receivers for the Packers are just not that good. Alan Lazard is their wide receiver 1. But on any other team, he's a wide receiver 2. That's the problem. He's not meant for a wide receiver 1. He had himself a pretty good day, though. 4 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown. They need to have a wide receiver 1 in there. I don't know who they could get, especially after the trade deadline. Maybe OBJ, but I doubt OBJ is going to sign with them. Wide receivers are the biggest problem. And I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter how good of a quarterback you are. You need to have solid receivers. It just is what it is. Yes, of course, Aaron Rodgers makes receivers good. He can still play solid football without good wide receivers, but you got to have a solid receiver to win games and be a good team. Just how it is. On the Lions side, Jared Goff, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. Jamal Williams, 81 yards receiving. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 55 receiving yards. The Patriots defeating the Colts, 26-3, firing their head coach. They end up signing Jeff Saturday. I mean, it's a little tricky. I mean, he is just a place, I guess, a fill-in coach, I guess. Obviously, they're not going to stick with him unless they turn that season around and they win out the rest of the season. I still think it's a little questionable, but usually, obviously, we see other coaches stuck in contracts, so they can't just go from there. They can't just sign who they want. They're in contracts. They can't just pull offensive coordinator from the Chiefs and be like, okay, yeah, come. You can't, because obviously contracts. But either way, Jeff Saturday has no coaching experience, but it is what it is. Either way, Colts, solid team, but just not playing good. Sam Ehlinger, 103 yards and interception. On the ground, he also led in rushing yards. Don't know what's happening with, of course, Jonathan Taylor. Went from the best running back last year to, injured and everything. Alec Pierce, 1 interception, 23 yards. That was really it for them. Patriots Mac Jones starting to fill in like he's that quarterback one still. 147 yards and a touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson, 60 yards. And then receiving, Hunter Henry was the leader with 4 receptions and 50 yards. Patriots move on to 5-4. Colts at 3-5-1. A shocker in New York. New York Jets defeating the Bills 2017. Josh Allen with 205 yards, 2 interceptions. But he did have 86 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 5 receptions, 93 yards. I know a lot of Bills fans are worried. I'm worried as a Josh Allen fantasy owner. Elbow injury could potentially be the same injury that pitchers get with Tommy John. They get Tommy John surgery. Hopefully that's not the case. Fantasy, forget fantasy. Just hoping that, I never want to see anybody go through Tommy John surgery. It's just not good. Similar surgery that Big Ben, if not the same surgery that Big Ben had a couple years ago. I don't want to see any quarterback or anybody go through that injury. Zach Wilson, 154 yards and a touchdown. Michael Carter, 76 yards and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 8 receptions, 92 yards. Vikings beating the Commanders 2017. Vikings move on to 7-1. They didn't look too good, against this team, but they still look like a solid team. Kirk Cousins, we saw a bunch of memes with him this week. 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. Dalvin Cook with 47 rushing yards, and Justin Jefferson with 115 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson fitting right in, 9 receptions for 70 yards. For the Commanders, Taylor Heineke, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Another quarterback situation, which I don't know what happens when Carson Wentz gets back. This is a team that just needs to draft in the offseason and not really focus on who they have right now. I think all their quarterback situations are pretty bad. Maybe give it to Sam Howell, though. People keep forgetting that he's on the team. Who knows, though? It doesn't hurt to try. Brian Robinson, leading rusher with 44 yards. And Curtis Samuel had himself 65 yards and a touchdown. Of course, it was controversial with the referee, but either way, those are stats. Vikings won 2017. Vikings move on to 7-1. Commanders 4-5. Raiders, I have no clue what's going on with them. They lost to the Jaguars 27-20, a team that was supposed to be very good. And their record's terrible this year. They're playing terrible football. They're sitting at 2-6. Like I said, lost to the Jaguars. Devontae Adams had himself a great day. He had 146 yards. Derek Carr had 259 passing yards. And the leading rusher was Travis Etienne for the Jaguars. So glad I picked him up. Big addition to the Jaguars. But I don't know what's up with the Raiders. They're supposed to be one of the better teams. They end up losing. They're 2-6. Embarrassing. Seahawks, still surprising me. I don't know how they're this good. Defeating the Cardinals 31-21. They're 6-3 now. Cardinals are 3-6. They got to fire Cliff. They're holding back a lot of talent, especially Kyler Murray, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also had 60 grounds on the run. Rondell Moore, 69 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had a great start, scoring a touchdown, but then they didn't really target him much in the second half. Geno Smith playing great football right now, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Kenneth Walker, the best rookie running back right now, 109 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Noah Fant, 5 receptions, 96 yards. The Buccaneers finally get back in the win column, defeating the Rams 16-13. Tom Brady, looking like the GOAT. He is 280 yards, a touchdown, had that game-winning drive for the Buccaneers. The leading rushers was 27 yards from Rashad White. And then on receiving, Cade Otton. No disrespect, but I never heard of him before. 60 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans, quiet day from him, only 40 receiving yards. Leonard Fournette, even though he did not have a good day running the ball, only 19 yards, still reliable receiving, 5 receptions, 41 yards. For the Rams, Matthew Stafford, 165 yards and a touchdown. Darrell Henderson with 56 yards on the ground, and Cooper Kupp being the leader. Who else? 8 receptions, 127 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know why they don't target other people. I don't know why Matt Stafford only targets Cooper Kupp the most. Allen Robinson, a solid receiver. He could be a receiver 1 on the Packers. I'm surprised they didn't trade him to the Packers. But either way, 3 receptions, 24 yards only. He's having a solid, quiet year. Tyler Higbee, 0 receptions. Only 1 target. I don't know why, not targeting the receivers. Van Jefferson had 5 targets but 0 receptions. Either way, Rams move on to 3-5. Buccaneers 4-5. The Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Tennessee Titans 20-17. This was a pretty sloppy game. Malik Willis not playing that good. Had 80 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Derrick Henry beating the leading rusher, 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Malik Willis running for 40 yards, but Malik Willis, everybody's saying that he was going to replace Tannehill. No. Another situation like the Commanders and the Colts and the Panthers. Just not really good any quarterback situations. They just have to try to luck out next year, whether through free agency or stick with Tannehill. Who knows? Either way, receiving problems in Tennessee, absolutely. The leading receiver was, I don't want to mispronounce that name, but Conqua, one reception, 48 yards. And he was a leading receiver. A.J. Brown has more touchdowns than all of the Titans wide receivers combined this season. Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 446 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Also led in rushing with 63 yards and a touchdown. Receiving, Travis Kelce, 106 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster with 88 yards. Glad to see him doing good. Then McCall Hardman had 79 yards and a touchdown. And the last game, this video is pretty long. Okay, I'm going to have to find ways to make it a bit smoother and shorter. Once again, first time recapping. But either way, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens defeating the New Orleans Saints in Louisiana, 27-13. Lamar Jackson, 133 yards and a touchdown. Kenyon Drake had himself a day, 93 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson had 82 rushing yards. Receiving, pretty quiet. Isaiah Likely, 1 reception, 24 yards, but a touchdown. I don't think we saw their tight end, who I can't think of the name right now, Mark Andrews. I don't even think we saw him, not even in the stat. I don't know if he played or not. Saints, Andy Dalton, 210 yards, a touchdown, interception. Don't know what's happening with Jameis Winston. I see him dressed up, but like he's not playing. Alvin Kamara, quiet day from him, 30 yards. Chris Olave being the leading receiver, 71 yards. But then Juwan Johnson had 42 yards and a touchdown. So, yeah, that was the recap. Going to find ways to make this smoother, more entertaining. It was a snooze fest. I'll be surprised if you're still watching this by now. But if you are, thank you. I appreciate you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.